Hello and welcome to another episode of Developer.AI at CodeNinja, a podcast dedicated to bringing you key insights on the synergy of AI-powered software development from some of the most influential thought leaders around the world. I'm your host, Umar Bilal. Today, we're excited to host Adil. Adil is CTO at CodeNinja, and we will be delving deep into the world of Agentic AI. With over 2 decades of hands-on experience with enterprise software development, Adil will be sharing key insights on how Agentic AI will help developers unleash a new era of autonomous decision-making, situational intelligence, and leverage real-time data for smarter problem solving. Adil, what is Agentic AI and why do you think developers should even be thinking about it? Is it just a hype or is there something more to it that we don't know?
अच्छा इसको आंसर करने से पहले ये जो आपने लास्ट चीज़ कही कि why developer should care about it. There's a lot of buzz कि AI replace कर देगा developers को and all. I think what I'm sure of is कि AI will definitely replace those developers who are not assisted by AI. So AI assisted developers will always be leading the game, or those who do not believe in the benefits of AI in their day-to-day work will definitely become obsolete.
I just want to speak. What do you mean by AI assisted developers?
Yeah.
Who are they?
So there's a lot of repetitive work that happens in a developer's day-to-day work. For example, decomposing a problem, understanding a problem, and then framing a solution. ये जो AI की जितने भी टूल्स हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल लार्ज लैंग्वेज मॉडल्स आप देख लें, और स्पेशल डेवलपर टूल्स है, फॉर एग्जांपल गिटहब कोपायलट है, स्पेशल लार्ज लैंग्वेज मॉडल्स है, फॉर एग्जांपल क्लाउड है या कर्सर है, ये जितने भी टूल्स हैं, दे स्पेशलाइज्ड टूल्स फॉर डेवलपर्स. And by not adapting these tools for decomposing a problem, structuring a problem, framing a problem, and then first draft of a solution, if you do not do that, so definitely like.
So, for example, if I ask you like, so for example, if I have a problem, if I want to build, let's say, an app that helps me, let's say, keep track of my fitness routine. Let's say it's an app, right? How, as a developer, I should start from Claude? Like, what do you mean by structuring through these tools?
Yeah. So the first question जो आपने जो problem statement दिया, मेरे ज़हन में आता है कि is there going to be a tool, a gadget like a watch or Fitbit or any tracker that your app needs to integrate to gather all the data, for example heartbeats or जो भी आपकी जो physical activity होती है, a lot of trackers out there. So पहला question here, whether you need to integrate with those. If the answer is yes, how do you integrate with those? What are the protocols those apps uses to communicate the data back to whatever system you're using? So उन protocols को समझना, उन protocols को कैसे आपने utilize करना है, what are the SDKs available out there, जो कि सारे जितने भी gadgets हैं for tracking those activities, वो कौन सी protocols follow करते हैं, how to integrate with those protocols. All these answers can be gathered from using these different tools, for example. So the word has done it before. It can help you write those integrations, understand those integrations, understand those conventions as well. What are the conventions that are being followed to integrate with these tools? So like if you're beginning with laying out the whole problem and decomposing it, it's important that you reason with one of these specialized LLMs, अपना problem share करें, like enrich that problem, and then basically work out a solution with those LLMs.
And do you and your team uses all these?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give you an example. One of our customers reached out to us. They needed an AI assistant for their customer services folks. So the customer services folks receives a call. Customers make a lot of inquiries. So it's important कि जो time to basically service those requests को reduce किया जाए, as well as customer agents को बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें memorize ना करनी पड़े, and they have quick access to the information. Both the product information as well as your customer की जो अपनी information है, for example their account details and everything else. Like it's a simple problem. So like for example जो लोग AI को समझते हैं, they'll say कि okay, we'll develop a RAG as well as we'll write some function calls to take care of fetching the customer's data. What we did is we asked for sample questions from the customer. What are the questions that the customers usually ask? All those questions. So they had data. We passed those questions to an LLM. और LLM को बताया कि what are the questions that can be answered from the knowledge base, like which are general questions, and what are the questions that are specific to a customer account. So it basically helped us develop a strategy that these are the questions where you need to build a knowledge repository, and these are the questions which needs an integration to the ERP to fetch customer specific information. And वहाँ से start करके then we actually developed those integrations with the help of LLMs, both for developing the RAG as well as for developing the integrations with their existing ERP. So we definitely do that all the time. अगर हम ये ना करते तो then that means कि वो जो list of questions हैं, those are about like 500 questions. एक customer कुछ भी पूछ सकता है. So 500 questions, then you'll have to, like with your naked eye, you'll have to go through all those questions and like see कि अच्छा कौन से questions हैं जो कि general product information से related है, कौन से questions हैं जो कि customer के account से related है. For example, customer asking for their account balance, for their default accounts, for their credit rating and the reason for their credit rating and everything else. But like with an LLM, it was like a matter of minutes instead of matter of weeks or days.
So before we go back to the agentic AI thing, one last thing. I see a lot of developers कि वो I mean, they don't use Copilot.
Yeah.
They don't use Claude. Like, my first question is why they don't use it. Like, how to make sure. So clearly, in terms of AI, when we talk about AI, availability is not adaptability.
Yeah.
How to make sure that engineers actually start using these products?
Yeah.
Why do you think they're not using it?
Yeah.
What are the first few reasons, and what's your experience where someone has adopted it, and why did they adapt?
जो AI है और especially जो AI की adaptability है for developers, so there is a thing, जो CLI आपकी होती है, with CLI you create new components, you create new services, even you seed data to databases. अगर आप CLI नहीं use करेंगे तो आप वैसे भी उसको कर सकते हैं, but like CLI has basically abstracted much of the details and gives you an easy way to perform the operation जो भी आप करना चाह रहे हैं. This is just like a CLI. I mean, if somebody is telling me that a developer does not believe in a CLI, there could be reasons, for example, for performance reasons or any other reasons, but like somebody saying, okay, I do not want to use CLI and instead I want to do it with my own hands and reinventing the wheel most of the times. Yes, of course, they can do it that way as well. But like, will I hire someone who would not use a CLI and instead spend hours and hours on things that could have been done in minutes?
So is this a function of just like, I still want to understand like why developers are not using it. So is there a money issue, like $20 subscription? But we see in our company, ये तो अपनी खुद ही पे कर रही होती है. But still the adaptability of these tools are under 1%. People don't use these Copilot, Claude and all that. I mean, it's incredibly powerful tools, लेकिन नहीं use करते. So what's your sense? क्यों नहीं करते? It's just like एक different चीज है, and जब भी कोई चीज different हो, people are just reluctant to use it. क्या आप use करना, खुद ही शुरू से there is a comfort zone of doing the things the way they've been doing. यही वजह होती है. Yeah, there's something more to it.
एक तो मुझे चीज लगती है कि they do not realize the value of using these tools. Number one. So
okay.
वो वैल्यू जितनी उनको क्लियर होगी, फॉर एग्जाम्पल देयर कोड, दे कैन राइट द कोड मोर एफिशिएंटली और ज़्यादा जल्दी लिख सकते हैं. इंस्टेड then they can focus more on how to optimize their code for performance, how to optimize their code probably for readability, और ये सारी चीज़ें they can focus on those things. As well as most of the time I have also experienced कि you learn a lot as well in how AI writes the code. So it gives you new perspective. Like, for example, something that you would do, the AI would do it very differently. For example, proposes a completely different solution, and that basically compels you to think on those lines as well. So number one is like जो
नंबर वन है वो वैल्यू रियलाइज नहीं कर पाते,
वैल्यू रियलाइज नहीं कर पाते, ठीक है।
ओके।
दूसरी जो है ना, कॉस्ट कैन आल्सो बी वन ऑफ द,
लेकिन कॉस्ट तो कंपनीज जो है वो तो खुद बेयर कर रही हैं, वो तो डेवलपर्स को अलाउ कर रही हैं, और खुद भी है तो $20-30 है।
या yeah, but like first hand I've heard this from developers, like जहाँ पे companies नहीं करती उनको sponsor, मुझे लगता है कि this is self investment. Like a developer should not wait for the organization कि उनको AI की subscription दें तो ये use करें. It's just like your organization has not realized the value of their investment.
Just ending on this topic, like, if you have to pick one for any developer, let's say 4 years 5 years down, एक ऐसा बना जिस प्रिंसिपल सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर है, 5 साल हो गए उसको किसी कंपनी में जॉब करते हुए, and he really wants to start using these products, like which one foundational tech you would propose? It would be OpenAI, Claude होगा या Gemini? What do you think? कौन सा लेना चाहिए as a developer? Do you think if you have to pick one?
So especially अगर आप developers के लिए, so there are two different things. Number one is you want AI to assist you in coding. Number second is you want AI to reason with you on problems and understanding problems.
Okay.
Right? So like if you want it for code, I think go for a solution that is available in IDEs.
Okay.
कुछ एक हफ्ता पहले अगर आप ये सवाल मेरे से पूछते थे, I'd recommended Cursor.
Okay.
Cursor basically benefits from all different large language models. OpenAI available है, Claude
और ये VS Code के अंदर ही इसका वो उन्होंने प्लगइन है।
So Cursor is basically आप समझ लें कि VS Code का एक adaptation है. So it's the same VS Code.
Okay.
But they basically configured it in a way अपनी branding के हिसाब से, and then like to utilize all these
large
AI capabilities.
Okay.
But so GitHub Copilot के साथ the problem they had was they had their own model and they did not allow you to use other models that are available out there. So like everybody knows the Cloud Sonnet is much better with code than any other large language model as of now. So GitHub Copilot was lacking there, and Cursor would be like allowed usage of all these different large language models.
Okay.
But now GitHub Copilot has announced that they're going to bring in the large language model of your choice to VS Code.
Okay, वो सारे लेके आ रहे हैं. So okay. So now you prefer Copilot. GitHub Copilot. Maybe
like honestly अगर बताऊँ, I still use Cursor, and ये वाली capability GitHub Copilot is not released yet. They've announced it like probably in matter of weeks.
So maybe it could be GitHub Copilot. अभी हो सकता है वो early access में हो. But let's say Cursor may be a good idea. So let's start with the Cursor. That's it, right? Okay. Now coming back to the Agentic AI thing, why develop? पहले तो मुझे बताओ कि Agentic AI है क्या? इसमें buzz निकाल के, I really want to get the most out of it for the developers. What's there in it? थोड़ा सा समझा भी दो कि Agentic AI क्या चीज़, और developer इसको कैसे देखे? How it's different from any other software solution they build for the customers.
So जो I'll basically take a step back and I'll like try to draw a line between like what's the difference between a conventional software versus an AI application. So the main difference between them is the software that we know works with structured data, and the software that is basically that uses AI capabilities works with unstructured data, right? So these AI applications are very good at taking unstructured input and basically dealing with it. Now, Agentic AI is, so for example, if you have a single LLM, for example, if this is an LLM based application, if you have a single LLM and a single input, and you exactly know what you need to do with prompting and prompt engineering, a single agent is sufficient. And in my opinion, it's not truly agentic. Agentic AI is where multiple instances of the same large language model or multiple large language models reason with each other and delegate tasks to each other to perform a task is what we call agentic AI. So for example, you have OpenAI and you have Claude. OpenAI we know is very good with reasoning, and Claude Sonnet we know is very good with understanding code and writing code. You use OpenAI to break down a problem, create user stories, and then, so this is one agent, which I call, for example, software architect. And then there is another agent, which I call, for example, software engineer, which is backed by Claude Sonnet. And these two work together. One reasons and breaks down the problem, the other one solves the problem. And then this one gets to validate what this has solved for. So like this becomes truly agentic when multiple instances of same LLM or multiple LLMs reason with each other to solve a problem. Now I'll give you an example. So we were working for a customer on basically tracking the results of affiliate marketing. So affiliate marketing क्या है कि there are social media influencers, different brands contract them to push their products. So Instagram पे क्या करते हैं, TikTok पे करते हैं, they basically products की unboxing करते हैं, and it's a way of basically pushing that product to their viewers. These brands pay them money, right? And they also give them a brand narrative as well. कि आपने जो unboxing करनी है, आपने product की कौन सी features को highlight करना है, कैसे करना है वगैरह वगैरह. अब these brands wants to basically track whether the influencers are sticking to the brand guidelines as well as they are pushing the product just as it has been agreed upon. Now what एक तरीका ये है कि then brands hire people to watch what the influencers are pushing and how they are pushing it, and then analyze it, whether they were sticking to the brand narrative or not, or like did they speak about the product for sufficient time, right? So it's a lot of labor. Imagine you're launching a new product and you've contracted 100 of affiliate marketers or influencers. Keeping track of it is like humongous work, number one. Number two is you'll never be able to analyze it. It's going to be very opinionated. So with agentic AI, what you could do is you can have an agent, they can basically scrap जो भी content आपके influencers, the one that you have hired, is sharing. So like they go and scrape that content. Another agent basically then picks that content. For example, the other agent is Gemini. So it's basically a video feed. Gemini processes that video feed for product information, and like you can do as much analysis you want. For example, the amount of time they spoke about the product, the exact product they spoke about, did they do any competitor comparison as well? What are the benefits that they shared, for example? Availability के बारे में क्या बताएं, things like that. And then you can pass on that info. Gemini can pass out that information to another agent, which actually summarizes the whole analysis and present it to you in a form that will help you make decisions. Right?
I think that makes sense. मैं Andrew इनको सुन रहा था, लैंड गया है कि and he said कि think of it. I think जो major जो confusion आती है वो आती है. It's not like how agentic AI is different from the software, the existing software. How it is different from the LLM. Like, for example, if you are doing something on ChatGPT, let's say 4o पे आप कुछ कर रहे हो, how it's different than an agentic AI. So he explained like, for example, if you want to write an essay, तो अभी आप इसको LLM को कहो, OpenAI को कहो, तो वो start करेगा और वो बस लिखना शुरू कर देगा. So write an essay on, let's say, Donald Trump. वो start करेगा और बस फिर वो लिखता जाएगा और end पे जाके खत्म. That's one way of look at it. But agentic AI would do is वो पहले एक एजेंट होगा, उसकी आउटलाइन बनाएगा, देखेगा कि कौन से डिफरेंट मेजर इवेंट्स हैं उनकी लाइफ में, फिर उसकी हेडिंग्स, एंड दैट्स मच क्लोजर to what human does, the way agent operates. So I think this breaking down of problems and then tasking it to different agents and then probably managing it through orchestrator to bring back the result. Probably that may be that's where the most value in agentic AI comes in. The one thing that's very powerful about agentic AI, I just want to share is, for example, the results, if we compare the results of, let's say, GPT 3.5. So GPT 3.5 was, I think, if I'm not wrong, it was like 65%. No, GPT 3.5 was, 48%, I guess. And 4 was 90% something, right? But when the same GPT 3.5 was used with agentic AI, the results were better than 4.0. So it's like with low level of raw intelligence, if you deploy agentic, you get the better results, even with the better than with the superior models. So I think that's one of the things that comes with agentic, and I think it's more closer to the way human thinks, the way agentic AI operates.
So there is a term that's being used, जिसको कहते हैं information grounding.
Okay, right? What's that?
How the information is grounded. So, for example, you ask an LLM who was the president of United States in the last term, and they may say the answer may be Joe Biden, right? But if you grounded information with, for example, with a search result from Google, the answer may be different in a way. It will be more detailed, for example, so that they can say the answer could be, if this is grounded with real-time information or from sources such as Google, the answer could be the president was Joe Biden. He beat Donald Trump by this much margin.
Okay. But so now talk about, once we've defined what is agentic AI, so se baat karte hain, okay, so now I'm excited about working on agentic AI. So where to start as a developer? Where to start? Like, what are the available platforms or frameworks that are available for developers to build agentic AI applications? उसमें एक तो चले एक तो problem की definition है कि okay, I am going to attempt this through agentic AI, and that's, I think that's, you can use 4.0 to come up with that thing, right? कोई भी problem है. But the second thing is कि कौन से platforms है जिनको use किया जाए? So probably let's start with Crew AI, or I mean, I see you use a lot. We have Lens. I mean, CodeNinja has built its own its own agentic AI platform on top of open source technologies. But I want to understand what are the platforms that are available and how to go about it. Mostly the open source हैं. Microsoft Autogen भी open source ही, I guess.
Exactly. So बहुत सारे open source पड़े हैं, जैसे आपने कहा Autogen Studio है, they recently renamed it, Zen से निकल गया. Crew AI है, then there is Defy, then AutoGPT, बहुत सारे हैं.
और mostly इनमें से open source है वैसे.
All of them are open source. All of them are open source. And then there are a lot of tooling also available out there to truly build agentic applications. For example, Composio.dev. Because like when you're building agents, you would want them to integrate to your own systems as well, right? So for example, you say somebody sends me an email, do this. Or somebody likes my post, do this, right? Or you want to have an agent that basically research on a trending topic and then create a LinkedIn post and share it to LinkedIn, right? So you would want these integrations with these different platforms. It might be your ERP, it might be a social media platform. So what tooling be sari available? Most of them are available. If they're not available, you can easily hack it. Their APIs are available. Write a custom tool or basically write your own agent. These days I'm using N8N a lot. N8N is also like an open source, unpaid commercial version.
N8N?
N8N, yeah.
Okay.
So it's open source. It has a lot of like 200 plus integrations available. It uses LangChain for like developing that agentic framework, and you can do a hell of things
with it. So as a developer, so one is, let's say, N8N or Crew AI, Autogen. These are the platforms where you can build different agentic AI applications, right? That's one way of looking at it. So let's call it a agentic AI platform framework, right? But on the other hand, want to, of course, next I'll speak more on this. I'll ask more on this. But then the other thing is Replit, right? As a software developer, जो 3-4 साल के experience है, right? How should he or she go about building Agentic AI? Should these guys be using Crew or AutoGen, or they should be using Replit? वो हम फिर बाद में जाएंगे कि Replit की detail, how is better than low code and all that. But how do you see that? और थोड़ा सा हमें Replit की working को भी explain. How does Replit work? Because it's an Agentic AI product application.
अच्छा, जो ये जितने भी फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं अंडर द हुड, लाइक जो एजेंटिक एआई अभी, it's basically like plumbing of wiring multiple instances of LLMs together.
Okay.
And then configurations of how they loop, what are the maximum iterations allowed, how these different LLM calls are orchestrated. It's just that. कोई चीज नहीं है.
So just to add, is Perplexity also an Agentic AI search, or is like there's more to it?
There is more to it.
Okay.
But like about these frameworks, like any framework that you're comfortable with will serve the purpose. Okay. So go with the one that you find the most easy to begin with.
Okay.
And then you can play with the other frameworks as well.
जो DeFi है, DeFi, उसका तो front end and all that वो तो बड़ा easy है.
Bada easy, yeah. So like start with DeFi if that's something that you're comfortable with.
Okay.
Or Auto GPT, बहुत सारे N8 N का मैंने जिक्र किया. So like any one of them that you're comfortable with.
Okay.
ठीक है, start with that.
Okay.
जो दूसरी जो चीज़ है, for example
Replit है.
So Replit has this their own repository of components and domain specific components, as well as, so like then you do not have to think about like building a component from scratch, and then they use basically AI to decompose a problem and identify components and go back to their repository, fetch components and compose you the solution. It's a beautifully orchestrated platform.
Okay, Replit पे मैं थोड़ा सा ऐड करूँगा. I mean, it's a great platform by the way. And if someone is just trying to see where the development is going, they must use Replit. It would give you a sense of what's the modern software development look like. But एक मैं कहूँगा कि I mean, while they do all the plumbing for you, but there's a lot of plumbing that goes into authentications, that goes into, there are lots of, I mean, for example, if you want to build a great product on top of LinkedIn, let's say, on top of Twitter, the amount of effort it requires to authenticate through Replit is roughly the same as through without Replit. So still there's a lot of plumbing that requires, और फिर आप Replit के साथ play करते रहो कि, I mean, because Replit allows you to have this English interface कि आप language में, natural language में करते रहो. But you feel like, yeah, इससे नहीं हो रहा यार. I mean, no. They're just, I mean, because Replit would never say no to you. So as other platforms, they no नहीं कहेंगे. I mean, this should be a way कि भाई आप खुद कर लें जाके. ये मैं नहीं कर सकता, right? But that's something I find out कि Replit at this, ये जो authentication है और ये जो end plumbing में जिसको कहूँगा, या integrations जहाँ पे required है, वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा अभी वहाँ पे वो there's a lot of effort that's required. But other than that, how to conceive and how to build an initial prototype, awesome. I mean, the idea that you can, I mean, or historically, I mean, you used to pay different agencies and different software companies के वो आपके लिए ये चीजें बनाएं, proof of concept. I mean, if you have a common sense, I won't say you're smart, if you have a bit of a common sense and you know this, you want to build a product, let's say, और आप उसके बारे में passionate हो, go use Replit. Go use Replit. अगर उसमें आपको थोड़ी सी effort भी लगती है plumbing में, but let me tell you, no code is required to build a Replit. But this is more toward developers. But मैं एक last चीज आपके साथ discuss करना चाहूँगा for the developer part and then move on. One is कि what's the difference between low code platform and Replit? So for example, Amjad Masad, who is the founder of Replit, he says कि and I think he's right. उनका ख्याल है कि low code is, I mean, it's very hard. Low code कोई आसान नहीं है. Low code is also very hard. There's so much things that you need to do to make a product. I mean, if you are an average level developer, तो you probably think यार low code रहने देते हैं, खुद ही कर लेते हैं. right? Because it looks easier. So he says that it probably is not sure whether it's going to replace developers, and probably not, maybe, but clearly, and I also believe that it would definitely replace or maybe could disrupt the low code market. How do you see the space of, let's say, what is the difference between bubble and what's the difference between Replit? How do you see it, and where do you think is you are more comfortable in saying someone जिसको code करना नहीं चाहता?
Yeah. अच्छा, low code, how is low code different from वो low code end user के लिए low code तो है, but at the end of the day there is a code behind it, ना? ठीक है. Low code is all about the conventions they follow. Okay. So they follow certain convention of building things. Okay. Right. The choice of the databases, how the interaction with the database happens, the caching strategy they use, the security strategies they use in securing the application. Okay. So they basically have agreed on certain conventions that they would follow, and then they use those conventions to do the plumbing for the application that you are building, right? जो चीजें आप build करते हैं low code platforms में, like Replit or Bubble or even Microsoft Power Apps, वो components सारे standard components होते हैं. So those standard components are available out there. You should know how to use those components, and then you can basically use those components to build your own application. But जहाँ तक बात है, it's not a first attempt. In developing low code platform, it's not going to be a last attempt. Okay. ठीक है. Okay. There are going to be a lot of attempts. Today, the word is basically reimagining building applications. Okay. Right. So LLMs can natively build applications. Microsoft is flirting with an idea of as part of their GitHub strategy. तो जिसको उन्होंने नाम दिया micro apps. Okay. Right. So you can write a micro app with the help of LLM, completely natural language, starting from authentication, styling the application to deployment, and then sharing their application with your users. Oh, really? Right? Okay. And they've demoed it in their event. Okay. And then they call it micro apps. Okay. So a completely natural language, and जैसे Chat GPT का view है, like you do it with chat, and like you play with your application. Okay, so it means that Replit may not be the final. Of course, it's not final product of low code or agentic development platform. Yeah. And there will be many down the line. मुझे ये micro apps का नहीं पता. So do they have released this thing? Yeah, it's early access. Yeah, it's private beta. ये बड़ा फायदा है, early access देते हैं, हर चीज का एक हफ्ता पहले ही पता होता है हमसे. Anyways, so now I want to focus on one thing. I mean, I just want to move away from developers, and I want to focus on entrepreneurs. Yeah. और या जो early stage आप कह लें, developers ही कह लें. So one of the thing जो अमजद मसाब जो है, जो Replit के co-founder है, he said like he's not sure how you can build enterprise grade products through but it's a great way to learn coding if you're using Replit. So for example, you can actually see how AI is building, how AI is defining a problem, how it's attacking the problem, how building different components and stuff. And then you can, once it's built, you can always go back in the code and see how it's happened. So एक तो ये था कि early stage जो developers हैं, very early stage developers जो हैं, how they can learn more from these platforms. But मेरा यहाँ पे question ये है कि जो entrepreneurs हैं, I mean, if you talk all these people who want to build products, I mean, the one of the fundamental thing they say is that they don't know how to code. And they have some, I mean, of course, some have good ideas, but some have absolutely great ideas, right? How do they use platform like Replit to build the initial prototype, and then once they build it, then probably if they think they have enough users, the first 1,000 users उन्होंने अपने ideas through generate कर लिया, and then they can go on and raise investment and maybe move from Replit to a full scale software development platform or frameworks. How do you think entrepreneurs, non-coding entrepreneurs, should think about proof of concepts, should think about building MVPs using Replit or Agentic AI or
other platforms, especially about Replit, because I'm very excited about Replit.
अच्छा जो enterprise applications हैं, so enterprise application, the way I understand it is, and I read somewhere as well, कि enterprise applications are the one that has the ability to integrate with the rest of the software portfolio of an organization. So the ability to integrate. Number second is their whole purpose is to create a competitive edge for the enterprise, right? How it makes the business better. That's the two goals. बाकी सारी चीजें security, compliance, governance, like of course वो standard चीजें enterprise की, but like these are the two main things. The ability to integrate with the rest of the portfolio softwares. Number second is the ability to create competitive edge, right? अब अगर Replit को आप देखें या किसी भी low code platform को देखें, number one is they stay in the cloud. ठीक है, but an enterprise may want the software to be deployed on a premise where the rest of the applications live, right? So those are the considerations that enterprises make. Now coming back to a non-technical founder or an entrepreneur developing a product, देखिए, if you are building a sales product and it's basically a technology product, then I think you can definitely do POCs with these low-code platforms, but eventually you'll have to eject from that platform and build something on your own because it's going to be a technology product, right? A SaaS product if you're building one. But if you founded a supply chain company and you need a technology component to run that company, definitely Replit or these platforms.
So for example, I'm a project manager.
Yeah.
I'm a project manager, and I know that Jira sucks.
Yeah.
In certain ways, right?
Yeah.
I also know ClickUp, the Monday.com, ticketing tools. And I know there's great ways to do it, and I have few ideas.
Yeah.
I want to build something on top of Jira, or want to build something of my own, purely because I have a very unique insight.
Yeah.
But I don't want to work with developer because I can't pay. I don't want to engage any software company. क्या मुझसे $50,000, $25,000. I just want to do it. Do you think that project manager can use Replit to build the initial proof of concept?
I said this is an interesting one. I don't think a Replit can build something like Jira. Or
not something like Jira.
So maybe, for example, the components, think about the components that are available in these low-code platforms. For example, you need a board.
Okay.
Or, yeah, like managing tickets, like how do you imagine that? Like उस project manager की तरह सोचे ना, does he want to manage tickets or tasks as a spreadsheet or with a board or is a list or like कोई तो तरीका होगा, then you basically assess the platform based on the capabilities that you need, right? If you need a Kanban board but you're imagining it differently, first you need to evaluate Replit for developing a Kanban board. अगर Replit Kanban board develop ही नहीं कर सकता, then you have to look elsewhere. Right?
So you think there are things that can be done from Replit, but अभी इस stage पे you think अभी वो वहाँ पे नहीं है जहाँ पे आप एक full-fledged even MVPs भी produce कर लो, and you probably need to rely on software developers or
just to summarize, with low-code platforms you will always be limited by the capabilities that they offer, right? So जो capabilities, if they do not support MySQL, you cannot do anything about it. You'll have to stick to the databases that they support, right? If they do not support multi-factor authentication, your app cannot have multi-factor authentication, for example. So
okay, fine. So for entrepreneurs, I think probably the idea is if they are working on an let's say on roles where they want to optimize supply chain, certain parts of supply chain, certain parts of logistics. Probably Replit can help.
Exactly.
Also, probably they want to build some small thing for themselves, just to take an inspiration, just to further polish their idea. Maybe Replit is good, but Replit or other agentic coding platforms. So let's move on from entrepreneurs to students. I think Pakistan with specifically हमारी जो कंप्यूटर साइंस के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनकी तादाद तो बहुत ज़्यादा है और अब बढ़ती ही जा रही है. दैट्स गुड बाय द वे. वो यूनिवर्सिटी प्रोजेक्ट्स भी करते हैं. और व्हाट डू यू थिंक in terms of agentic AI, in terms of Replit, in terms of other local platforms? What do you think? At macro, I want to pick your mind on how students should think about AI as a not as just for reasoning or using GPT, in terms of, I'm specifically talking about in terms of coding. At a macro and a micro, what does these platforms have to offer to students? For example, Replit hai ya Crew AI hai. Or think of someone in third year.
मुझे लगता है कि जो AI सबसे ज्यादा मुझे लगता है जो बेनिफिट कर सकते हैं लोग वो वही है स्टूडेंट्स. नंबर वन, they are not yet committed to a career track. Okay, so it's not like they need to optimize the usage of all these AI tools to the career track that they are on. So like they're very fluid and flexible. They can use it for anything they like. So there's a lot of flexibility. Number one. Number second is, especially in Pakistan, there's a lot of challenge with tooling when new graduates come into careers in software development, for example, or even in data engineering. So you have to invest a lot of time in learning the tooling, right? How to create a new project, for example, or where to find a piece of code, or like understanding a bug, or ये सारी चीजें. These can be like, one has to not to worry anymore about these things. AI basically जो आपकी onboarding है to a project or to a team बहुत ज़्यादा fast हो गई है. So like जहाँ पे महीने लगते थे वहाँ पे दिन लगते हैं अब. So there's a lot of utility for these new students. Number one. Number two is everything जो नए नए problems हैं, you can think about the problems, and with the help of AI you can learn any tool, you can try a new language. Even AI can create a code for you if you're like, for example, working on a research project or anything that you like.
मैं अब थर्ड ईयर का स्टूडेंट हूँ, मुझे तो, और कंप्यूटर साइंस का स्टूडेंट हूँ. मैं तो सारा दिन क्लासेस लेता रहता हूँ, कभी कंपाइलर्स और कभी systems programming and all that, right? और मेरे पास 3-4 घंटे हैं. And I also have a thought कि यार इन 3-4-5 घंटों में, let's say, can I use AI to help me make some money without freelancing, without spending that brutal effort on Upwork and all that, and just destroy a early character? मैं उसकी खैर बात नहीं कर रहा. What I'm saying is कि how they can make, I mean, would you hire someone in third year who knows how to use Claude, who knows how the enterprise software products work, and would you hire someone कि वो using AI अपनी उस capability जो है, जो भी उसने experience gain नहीं किया, वो AI से cover कर ले और साथ अपनी job को start करे? Do you think this can be done? Because at the end of the day, everything needs to be translated into some sort of reward. I mean, there's a huge value of learning, but of course, especially students में जो फॉर एग्जांपल सेंट्रल पंजाब की यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं, जो आई मीन अपार्ट फ्रॉम ये जो सो कॉल्ड बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं, इनके अलावा हाँ उनके अलावा वो वांट इज पीपल वांट टू मेक मनी, एंड दैट्स व्हाट दे शुड थिंक ऑफ. माय थिंकिंग इज लाइक हाउ डज एआई कैन हेल्प देम डू दैट. सो इस पार्ट में
देखिए एक चीज मैं इस पे मेरा एक टेक है, मेक मनी टुडे, make small money today, or make big money after 2 years. ठीक है,
चलो पॉकेट मनी तो निकले, चलो स्मॉल मनी इतनी तो, I mean there should be something.
अब अच्छा इसका मैं I do not have clear answer, but like what I can tell you is, if you use these AIs to understand what the word is working on, what it is about, when you go out of your university, there's a lot of promise that you make a lot of money, right? Organizations बहुत ज़्यादा time लगाती हैं onboarding and basically training these new graduates for software development careers especially. And a candidate who demonstrate that he or she does not require that 6 months investment in an organization definitely means a financial promise for them from the organization. The chances of employability, the chances of working on great problems, the chances of working on cutting edge things becomes a lot more higher than someone who is just starting with these.
And you think कि ये जो 6 months or a year जो organization किसी भी fresh graduate पे लगाती है in terms of like onboarding these guys into the ecosystem, readiness कह लें, you think that can be covered if they use platforms like Claude and OpenAI in their universities?
Yeah, absolutely. और मैं अभी बताऊंगा like our onboarding, वो जो 6 months हैं, these AI tools are like one of the key components in that. So अगर ये आप पहले से सीखे हैं ये सारी चीजें, क्योंकि like मैं अगर अपनी organization की बात करूँ CodeNinja की, if you do not understand these tools and if you do not utilize these tools, probably we do not have a place for you.
So I have a question. So we set up global capability centers for some of the world's most important businesses, and they have this criteria कि हमें on an average, they want to build diamond shaped organizations. Mostly they want कि 5 साल की experience के लोग हों. Fair enough. So my question is, वो जो 5 साल की experience या जो 2 साल की experience के लोग वो कहते हैं कि we need to have at least bottom पे diamond के, we need to have 10 people that are 2+ years of experience. How CodeNinja can deploy fresh graduates into that part, saying to the customer that, well, we know that they've been using these AI platforms. They are right up there. जो आप 2+ years of experience से expect करें with absolute transparency. They are fresh graduates, but they're using these tools. They deliver more than 2+ years of experience. Do you think, first of all, is this possible as a macro? If yes, then at a micro level, what these fresh graduates have to do to make sure कि वो 2+ years of experience के level पे आए using these AI platforms?
Generally 2+ years का developer करता क्या? So that's important, right? Their ability to understand a problem, and they need a lot of they do not need a lot of hand holding to actually then write a solution. That's what they do. ठीक है, इससे ज़्यादा मतलब that's the least that they do, right?
So understanding a problem and then ability to write a solution without much of a hand holding.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot of plumbing that goes into it.
Yeah. So वो plumbing जो है, देखिए वो plumbing वो आती है project के experience से, the experience with the source code or with the code base. ठीक है, so you're part of a huge team, and that team is working on a repository with millions of lines of code, right? So it takes years and years for people to understand like how to basically navigate that repository or वो source code को कैसे navigate करना. But I think that's peanuts now with the help of these tools, to finding out कौन सी चीज़ कहाँ पे हो रही है, कैसे हो रही है, things like that.
जिस तरह GitHub वो Copilot, get how to know the unfamiliar code bases, let's say, for example.
Yeah, so it has become very easy to know the unfamiliar code bases. So this is expected over 2+ years of experience, and now that's a given with these AI tools if a fresh grade is using it, right? Number second is understanding a problem, right? So you have a code base, you have an AI tool that understands the code base, and now you have a problem. For example, you have a bug that you need to solve, right? You can always reason with your AI tool to help you identify the bug, understand the bug, and reproduce the bug, right? You can write a unit test, or you can write a script to actually test for the bug, right? And then with the help of AI, you can even solve the bug, or you can fix the bug, right? So if you can do this, and definitely AI helps you at every stage of this journey.
When we talk about tech, again I would ask कि एक fresh grad आया है और उसका बिल्कुल वो fresh है, like, but we have, for example, at this point we have, let's say, 15-20 I think positions जो 2+ साल से ऊपर के engineers चाहिए. Fresh graduates तो बहुत ज़्यादा है. My question is कि पहला तो question ये है कि जो fresh graduates हैं, it's not only about tech. When you onboard someone, on in any company, let's say in CodeNinja, you onboard them in any project, which by definition means कि एक ongoing चीज चल रही है और उसकी एक domain है.
Yeah.
And problem solving perhaps does not necessarily mean कि आपने सिर्फ उसके tech को ही देखना है, which probably is not does not make the much part. It's more like understanding the business, understanding the nuances of the business.
Yeah.
How does AI, for example, if we are onboarding someone on oil and gas implementation, एक project है हमारा, let's suppose, या कोई हम एक airline के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, उसकी किसी implementation पे, how to understand the domain knowledge base of that project, क्या उसमें भी AI help कर देता है? और second, मेरा question ये है कि if someone comes to you in the interview, कहते हैं कि well, I'm a fresh grad, लेकिन I use Claude, I use GPT-4o, I believe I can deliver value of 2+ years of experience. Do you have any benchmark to evaluate what he or she is saying, to test it कि क्या ये 2+ years of experience के equivalent demonstrate कर देगा? For example, I've seen कि कल हम VCP, we create problems के platform को हमने integrate किया CodeNinja के जैसे testing platform. Do you think कि इस तरह के tool से evaluate किया जा सकता है कि इतने years of experience के बंदे को कैसे benchmark करना है?
अच्छा, मेरे ख्याल से it's very subjective, like experience को इस तरह number of years में count करने and all, like but जो initial मैंने एक चीज बताई है मेरे लिए तो that's what matters, right? जो एक चीज मैं कहूँगा कि बहुत important चीज है जो आपने कहा, it's not only the tech or the code, but वो business domain or like the business of the software is also very important for someone who has spent 2 years on a project. They understands the business much better than someone who is just coming in, right? AI definitely helps a lot in like minimizing the time for the new incoming team member as well. So for example, if you are maintaining knowledge repositories on Confluence or SharePoint, you can write. So for example, जब हम NetSol में जॉब कर रहे थे, NetSol कि जो प्रोडक्ट डोमेन थी was completely different, like ना हमने कभी यूनिवर्सिटीज में सुना था ना वैसे कभी सुना था. For example, there is this feature of early termination of a loan, right? हमें नहीं पता था early termination. अब हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की, हर रीजन के early termination के अपने रूल्स हैं, अपने तरीके हैं. So like for example, for a developer, understanding कि what are the early termination rules or guidelines for this customer or for this region, right? Probably the only way was कि आप जाके SRS में देख लें या जो है ना आप कोड से समझ लें. But with AI, for example, you have an AI agent for every project, and that AI agent has access to all the knowledge repositories of that application. That AI agent can help prepare an onboarding plan, as well as any question that you have about the business domain, you can just ask the AI agent and find answers for that. So like you can definitely minimize a lot of time.
Perfect. This is the final part. I think I would, but I'll start from this part. You talk about, because I'm very passionate about, I understand that what you are saying, that there are things that AI can do, but one of the fundamental things I want to achieve is like, I want to talk to my customers. I want to tell them, look, I mean, I understand what you're saying about 8+ years of experience, 5+ years of experience. I understand how you define intelligence, how you define experience. But what my passion is, if we unlock this thing, that we can onboard fresh graduates into ongoing existing projects. One of the things that Jamie Dimon said about that, one of the fundamental challenge that we're having at this stage is कि जो onboarding time है किसी भी fresh grad का, even in JP Morgan, in these banks or even new, वो बहुत ज़्यादा है. I mean, it requires a lot of effort to onboard someone. I think if AI can solve this problem and make these fresh graduates part of the global economy at a very early stage, बहुत ज़्यादा effort ना लगे, there is a lot of potential. There is an incredible, I'm very passionate, इसलिए मैं घूम उधर आ जाता हूँ. मुझे बताओ कि fresh graduate को क्या फायदा, क्योंकि and then there is a lot of untapped potential then. Now, thinking about it कि एक domain होती है, of course next section I want to focus on businesses, governments and institutes जो जिनके साथ हम काम करते हैं primarily. So most of our work is with the governments, with institutes, with large enterprises. One of the things, or it means working for them means understanding their business, right? So one of the things that we're very excited about is, for example, there's a platform called Glean. It's an enterprise search platform, right? It allows you to democratize search within the company, right? One of the thing I want to understand is what, and now coming back to this agentic AI and this AI for businesses and governments, that's my core question. But the second question, once you answer that, is like, if we really pick this one thing, एक organization somehow try to manage कि वो अपने intellectual capital को successfully cloud पे डाल दे, successfully digital world में ले आए in a way where a guy जो join करे या कोई भी join करे, कोई sales का SDR है young, उसने कुछ बेचना है, किसी इंजीनियर ने कुछ बनाना है, उसको ये डेफिनेशन आना कि उसने 6 साल 5 साल लगा के अर्ली टर्मिनेशन सीखनी है और फिर ही करनी है. इफ दिस इज वन ऑफ द यूज केस ऑफ जो अरविंद ग्लीन पे कर रहा है एंटरप्राइज सर्च. माय क्वेश्चन टू यू इज, एंड दैट इज एजेंटिक, माय क्वेश्चन टू यू इज हाउ एट अ मैक्रो एजेंटिक एआई can be applied in these governments, in these scenarios, and where is the biggest untapped potential that we can tap in? How do you think about it?
Achha, so for someone to perform a task, जो भी वो task delegate कर रहा है, most of the time it is assumed that they know what they need to do.
Okay.
बहुत सारी assumptions होती हैं. So for example, हम early termination की बात कर रहे हैं या किसी भी business case की बात कर रहे हैं, हम एक सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर को अगर कहते हैं कि फॉर एग्जांपल गो फिक्स अ बग इन दिस अर्ली टर्मिनेशन मॉड्यूल, our assumption is that they know about early termination, right? If they do not know about early termination, we do not generally point them to the knowledge repositories or the ways where they can learn more about early termination, right? So like जो आपने onboarding की बात की, for example, someone who is going to be a loan origination officer in a bank, or someone who is going to be an auditor, it is important, if they are new entrants, you also, like when you're delegating a task, you also point them to the knowledge where they learn more about it, right? So imagine, for example, if you're using Jira for delegating these tasks, you create a ticket, your AI knows this guy is an entrant and can bring in the right information from Confluence or other knowledge repositories that they use and attach it to the ticket. So for example, if the ticket is about early termination, AI khud hi jo na brings in and fetches the knowledge sources for about early termination and attaches it to the ticket. So like for example, here is the ticket, here is the description, here is what we need to do. In case you do not know about what this ticket is about, go read here, right? So it can be definitely done in a very autonomous way, and it can be an attempt to minimize their onboarding time about the business cases of an organization.
Okay. Coming back to, of course, you have अच्छा address कर दिया कि there are ways where enterprises can use.
वो assumptions को ना बहुत सारी assumptions होती हैं organization में, you have to move away from those assumptions. Like, so होती क्या है, organizations they only work with experienced people. अभी generally होता क्या, you onboard people, you train them for a certain time. When you think you are ready, then you basically classify them कि okay, this guy is good with this guy is good with that, this guy is good with that. जो the amount of time that you save by using these AI tools, उसका भी तो सोचना है उसका क्या करना है. So you can definitely ask these people to use the time that you have saved with these AI tools to understand about these problems, or to learn about these business domains, or to learn about these new business cases.
I got it. In terms of AI and specifically agentic AI, हम different governments के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, in enterprise के साथ काम कर रहे हैं. One of the things that we really want to help different जो decision makers हैं, for example, government में अगर कोई decision maker है, enterprise में कोई CTO है या CIO है या head of ops है, how they need to integrate agentic AI into their workflow. So one of the things they ask is, and rightly by the way, is I think is this is कि यार, I mean it's great कि आप intelligence को workflows के अंदर लेके आ रहे हो, but one of the things they struggle with is कि UiPath did it in 2005, right? RPA, robotic process automation, right? They've been doing it from last 20 years. There are so many other companies been doing it. एक तो ये चीज समझना कि what does an AI agent mean, how it is different from RPA, let's say. These are questions that continuously they ask. And then they also want to understand कि उन use cases को कैसे identify किया जाए जहाँ पे returns हों. Governments चाहती हैं कि वो returns immediate हों. They are very accessible. वो चाहते हैं कि but they want कि आज deploy करें और कल जो है अगर $10 million वो tax इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं तो कल 12 होंगे. They want immediate returns. जो enterprise, of course, they are more towards future. They want to compete with their competitors, of course. तो वहाँ पे वो competitive बात चाहते हैं. So in terms of use cases, how do you think any CTO or CIO or government secretary or whatever they need to think about Agentic AI?
Yeah.
And how it's different from RPA?
जो आपने बात की UiPath और RPA, most of our listeners or most of the people even haven't even tried UiPath.
Yeah.
Number one is like what they failed at was how accessible was their technology, the platform. It was extremely expensive. You need consultants and implementation partners to develop those RPAs and UiPaths and everything.
And and if you don't have an ecosystem like Azure or AWS, then so, those implementation process doesn't help.
आप भूल जाएं, ठीक है. With the AI that we now today is available for $20 a month.
Penetration बहुत ज़्यादा.
Yeah. For everyone. कोई बाउंड्री नहीं है कि इस मुल्क में मॉडल अवेलेबल है या नहीं है, ये को पता नहीं डाउन टाइम है, ये कोई लाइसेंस है, you need an implementation partner, then nothing, right? Number one. Number two is UiPath और जो RPA की जो बाकी जो frameworks हैं वो बनाने के लिए you need to first learn those tools.
Okay.
ठीक है. The AI today has one language, that is English.
Okay.
Right? So the same language, you do not need a coding language, you need nothing, right? जो पूरा operating system है, that is English, right? So it speaks the language that you speak and you understand. Number third is this AI can be plugged in at any stage of the workflow that you can imagine. So like anyway, it can be utilized at the end of the workflow. It can kick off a workflow. It can jump in the middle of a workflow. Like it can be plugged in anywhere. दूसरा जो AI हम बात करें, it's not only the large language models. The whole ecosystem is very rich with open source models as well. So like you pick a large language model, you fine tune or post train them on your own data, and they start speaking the language of your enterprise or your organization. Then with Agentic AI, it's not only about large language models. So you can have your supervised learning model, कोई भी जो है ना classifier model, कोई भी any model that you need, right? And basically make them part of your agentic ecosystem, and they can exactly do what you want it to do. So number one is to answer your question, accessibility, right? Number second is the freedom जो आप मर्जी से करना चाहते हैं, आप किसी भी पॉइंट पे कर सकते हैं.
One last thing, and of course we'll keep it short. One last thing is enterprise, especially government, they're very and rightly so, two topics they want to talk about is about their data, and second is about their security as an enterprise, data security. How, for example, working with these big techs, let's say, I mean, you can build great agents on top of, let's say, Crew AI. They in turn use platforms like Claude or OpenAI. How, as an organization, as a software company or services company, we need to make sure कि governments को जो security चाहिए और उनकी जो data security है उसको ensure किया जाए. That's number one. Second, how should they think about their data security? Because I think they are right. जो intelligence को जो चीज feed हो रही है वो at a fundamental level वो तो data. So how to think about this part? टू मेक श्योर कि आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंटरप्राइज सिक्योरिटी वो रहे?
बिल्कुल. सो एक तो पहली चीज़ ये है कि इट्स नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट कि आप कोई क्लाउड सर्विस यूज़ करें. यू आर नॉट टाइड टू एनी ऑफ इट. एंड दैट डज नॉट मीन कि अगर आप किसी ऑन प्रेम स्ट्रेटजी की तरफ जाते हैं सो यू लूज ऑन सम ऑफ द गुडीज ऑफ द क्लाउड. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं. सो मोस्ट ऑफ द ओपन वेट्स ओपन सोर्स मॉडल्स कैन बी डिप्लॉयड लोकली. जितने फ्रेमवर्क्स की हमने बात की, फॉर एग्जांपल एजेंट्स डेवलप करने के लिए दे आर ओपन सोर्स. मोस्ट ऑफ देम आर ओपन सोर्स एंड कैन बी डिप्लॉयड ऑन प्रेम.
लेकिन जिन लैंग्वेज मॉडल्स को वो यूज कर रहे हैं, जिस तरह क्रू एआई अगर वो यूज कर रहा है ओपन एआई को,
नहीं वो कन्फिगरेबल होती है. वो मॉडल हमने खुद बताना होता है, वो यूआरएल हमने खुद बताना होता है.
वो बिल्कुल ठीक है, लेकिन वो मॉडल्स फिर इसका मतलब फिर वी वुड बी मोर फोकसिंग ऑन लामा मेटा के मॉडल्स, उधर पे फिर हमारा ज्यादा फोकस होगा. सो नाउ कमिंग बैक टू दिस, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर किसी ने एंटरप्राइज या गवर्नमेंट सेटिंग में स्पेशली अगर लेट्स से इसको डिप्लॉय करना है, हम जिस तरह कर ही रहे हैं, जस्ट वांट टू स्पीक मोर ऑन दैट, कि वो फिर लामा के साथ ही जाएगा. क्योंकि इस वक्त अगर बेंचमार्क्स देखें, कोई भी ओपन सोर्स जो GPT-4o के करीब है या क्लाउड के, वो तो फिर लामा ही.
एग्जैक्टली.
That's the option available. And do you think deploying that you can get the sufficient amount of intelligence जो आपको लामा let's say 8 बिलियन पैरामीटर्स में मिल रही है?
सो देखिए, उसकी असेसमेंट का क्राइटेरिया ये होता है, फॉर एग्जांपल हाउ गुड दे आर विद फंक्शन कॉलिंग और टूल कॉलिंग.
ओके,
ठीक है, क्योंकि वो टूल कॉल्स ही उसको एजेंटिक बनाती है.
ओके,
ठीक है. सो हाउ गुड दे आर विद, उसके डिफरेंट बेंचमार्क्स हैं. सो यू स्टडी दोज बेंचमार्क्स इन लाइक सी के how good they are with tool calls. Number 1. Number 2 is how good they are with reasoning. ठीक है, overfitting तो नहीं करते या underfitting तो ज़्यादा नहीं करते, things like that. Number 3 is आपको अगर you need multilingual support or anything, so you basically assess those models based on those criteria, and then you make a decision.
Perfect. I think one of the things that I would like to share with everyone is कि I was listening to Mustafa Salman, Microsoft AI के वो CEO है, उससे पहले वो DeepMind के co-founder, and he said like this is the first time in the history कि humans have more breakthroughs than to know what to do about it. और मतलब हमें पता है there are more every second there is a breakthrough, and generally there is actually a breakthrough. You see what the hell, for example these micro apps, it's so fascinating, and the world doesn't know how to go about it. One thing I want to share and I want to say to all the students, to entrepreneurs, to business executives, bet on AI. It's severely underhyped. I know there are few people, they say no, it's not like that, cats se zyada nahi, there's nothing like this. If you understand law of scaling, it's a fact that it would replace human level intelligence, को replace करेगा बड़े आराम से. I mean, if you just understand the law of scaling, how that's working, right? So what I want to share is that it could be both ways. I mean, maybe in 5-7 years there is a massive event, and it would change this part of the world, हमारी planet को forever change कर देगा, and that mean, and I'm saying this in a negative sense, so that the impact could be far worse. But if you ask me, the probability to go at a positive side is more, but उसके लिए जरूरी है कि हम adapt करें. It's not a predetermined software कि आपको पता है कि 50,000 इधर से बचाना है तो वहाँ पे AI को use case को deploy किया और बचा. It's about taking the initiative, start building products and services on top of this incredible human intelligence, जो artificial intelligence human, I think 28-29 के अंदर that would be no one would hire someone, that's my bet, no one would hire someone just for intelligence. I think the traits of hiring the trait would be based on resilience, based on किसी का हार्ट कितना अच्छा है, आप टीम के साथ कितना अच्छा चल सकते हैं. That would be more important things than
passion for problems,
ability to inspire. ये चीजें रह जाएंगी. इंटेलिजेंस के लिए कि आप बताएं कि आप मतलब द आइडिया, इंटेलिजेंस इज पैटर्न रिकग्निशन, कि आपने पहले ये काम कितनी दफा किया है, आई डोंट थिंक इसके लिए कोई हायर कर रहा होगा. एंड आई थिंक वी शुड बी फुली अवेयर ऑफ दैट.